Hey, it's Doug McGuff with Ultimate Exercise, Body by Science and drmcguff.com. I'm here with an updated studio tour. We're located at 108 East North 1st Street in Seneca, South Carolina, and the historic Adger building, which dates back into the 1800s, where it was a farm implement store. This is our front door. Our phone number is in area code 864. You can call us if you want to schedule a free introductory appointment. But let's go in and take a look. We've recently updated the office area with some new hardwood flooring. This is where clients will sit if they're a little bit early for their appointment, but pretty much people may also use this to recover after a workout because no one really has to wait. You're scheduled ahead of time, your machines are set up ahead of time. For studio owners that are interested in how we schedule our clients, we use the Dayminder scheduling app, which I really like because of its flexibility. It's very easy to put appointments in, and it has a really good correction feature for when clients want to reschedule called the eraser. It works really, really well, and it has a monthly service charge of $0.00. So if you ever want to get started in your own business, I say just get started and do it simple. We do require a 12-hour notice for appointments to be rescheduled. You can reach us easily by calling us at our phone number. There's always going to be an instructor here during business hours, and since appointments turn every 12 minutes, someone doesn't pick up the phone immediately and answer, you'll be called back very shortly to reschedule your appointment. Now we enter into the training area. We came through double doors because we still operate our training area as a completely private environment. So when a client comes for their workout, it will just be them and their instructor back here. Now, on broad overview, I've set up the facility so that an entire workout can be conducted on one side of the facility, down this side, and an entire workout for the whole body could be conducted on this side of the studio with roughly matching equipment. And the reason for this is we're almost at capacity. We almost have no room for further appointments, but if we get to the point where we're exceeding our capacity, it's very easy to just drop a partition down the middle and still maintain privacy, but be able to take on additional clients. And I think that's coming in the very near-term future. At this point, I'd like to walk you through each machine that we have back here and give you a little brief description of what it is. So first in the tour here, most facility owners and enthusiasts will recognize that this is the MedEx Leg Press with the dual weight stack running up to 1,000 pounds, adjustable in multiple planes, so we can fit anyone from about 4'8" to 7 feet in this machine with appropriate settings to have the best strength curve possible. And this is predominantly how we train legs. I would love to have leg extension and leg curl, and actually have MedEx leg extension and leg curl in storage at this time. But if you go back to my prior videos discussing whether multiple movements or intensity are the key to covering all the muscles in a targeted area, you'll understand why we can get away with just that. The next thing is the MedEx Compound Row. But this one has the retrofit performed by Ken Hutchins that involves this fall-off cam. So this cam falls off to a ratio of 12:1, meaning it gets about 12 times lighter as you approach completion of the movement where the elbow and shoulder joints are really, really flexed and your force output drops off. Now this works really, really well, like most Ken Hutchins pieces, if the client or the person training is using perfect form. This is literally a perfect machine. The fall off, you'll think that you're on your last repetition, but you can keep, if you grinding it out, if you just keep continuous effort, you may complete a repetition and get a much, much deeper level of inroad. For anyone that does not behave properly on this machine, it is just super easy to cheat on. If you lean off this chest pad Or if when you grip, if you flex your wrist just a little bit, you get onto the real easy part of that cam and you can sandbag like a mother bear. So for clients that we have behavioral difficulty with, we'll just move this seat pad in and stay on the bigger, flatter part of that cam until we get their behavior tuned where they can really use it productively. And next up is the MedEx chest press. Everyone's familiar with this piece. You'll see that at the top, the movement arms are cantilevered, so the handles when you're chest pressing are converging and mimicking the actual function of the targeted muscle to bring the humerus out, down, and across the body. And again, this is adjustable in multiple planes, so it can fit just about anyone. Next in the lineup is an old 1970s Nautilus Super Pullover, which is an incredibly just epic classic piece, referred to as the upper body squat. But this one has also got Ken Hutchins retrofits on it, which make it really, really nice. One important piece is the seat belt. I see these being used on the internet all the time by big bodybuilders that aren't using the seat belt, and you're completely missing the point of the machine if you aren't. That seat belt restraining the pelvis, when you push your pelvis into the seat belt, your back is levered into the back pad and your elbows are coupled into the movement arm so that you're completely coupled into the machine so that the lats are loaded really, really well. We have UHMW plastic cams, which have been shaved and adjusted for the ideal strength curve, so you have random position failure. And all of the movement points, the chains and pulleys, have been replaced with sealed bearing pulleys and Kevlar, so it's very low friction and very smooth. Next up is the Super Slow Systems Pulldown. This is not the RenX version, but the Super Slow version. And it also has a fall-off cam built into it. And it has rough adjustments for cam timing over here where you have position 1, 2, and 3 so that you can adjust the cam timing based on arm length so that you get the fall off at the appropriate point in the range of motion. We really have come to like the mag grip on this piece because the way that your hand holds onto it and it couples onto the palm of your hand, there's very few problems with grip fatigue when we're using that. We also have a wider version of the mag grip if we want to vary for a little bit wider grip position on this machine. Next up is the MedEx overhead press that does not have any real modifications or adjustments to it because it's pretty much perfect the way that it is. Again, adjustable in multiple planes. We keep a step stool in front of it so that people can rest their feet on it. And that cuts back on any form discrepancies like leg flailing when things get hard. It really helps the client to stabilize. Then we, not too long ago, acquired this monstrosity, which is the MedX Medical lumbar machine. And this actually locks you into the machine so that your pelvis is immobilized. And the only thing that can really extend your lower back are the deep lumbar muscles. Now make no mistake, when you're cranked into this thing, your quads, hamstrings, and glutes are working like crazy, and you will feel that to some extent. It's just that the way that you're cranked into this thing mechanically cancels out their contribution so that only the deep lumbar muscles are loaded. This thing has a big, gigantic counterweight so that you can counterweight the effect of someone's torso in the contribution to resistance for the lumbar muscles. So basically, you take the pin out and the person's sitting there and you adjust this crank arm to move this big weight to completely cancel out the weight of their torso so that as it's moving back and forth, it's been zeroed out at a top dead zero, so there's no contribution of leverage from your torso as you lean forward and extend backwards. We predominantly use this machine as a standalone workout along with the cervical neck extension for clients that want to add an extra workout into their week, specifically focusing on the spinal musculature. Way tucked back here in the corner is the Super Slow Systems neck extension. It's built off a template like the old Nautilus 4-way neck, but it's much more sophisticated. It has sealed bearings. It has a fall-off cam so that you can have the appropriate fall-off as the muscle contracts further and further. It's very adjustable, but the most important thing is it actually has this alligator cam. So there's actually a crank that moves a plunger that changes the cam timing, because different people are different sizes. Someone might have a really long and slender neck, and full flexion where the fall off is required may be much further along in the range of motion, so you need to adjust the cam accordingly. Someone else may be very thick-necked, and you can therefore back it off and adjust for that. Next up is a Super Slow Systems biceps machine. And what you'll see here is it also has the fall-off cam that is adjustable through an alligator type adjustment. And that was named alligator because in Louisiana and Florida, when they used to catch alligators, the way they got them out of the water was using a pivot into a big rope to serve as leverage to lift the animal out of the water. So Ken Hutchins named it the alligator cam. But again, if you're a very slender female, your forearm may hit your biceps much, much later in the range of motion than a large male with muscular forearms and a big bicep, where full flexion occurs much earlier in the range of motion. So you can adjust the cam timing so that it's perfect for whoever happens to be on the machine. All right, now we're going to go down the other side of the facility in an opposite direction. So over here, we have an old 1970s Nautilus plate loading bicep and tricep machine. It has also been retrofitted with Super Slow Systems cams. These are UHMW plastic running on Kevlar through sealed bearings. These have been shaved down so that people are achieving random position failure. Now, the old Nautilus has no adjustments in seat height whatsoever. So we have just a collection of booster pads so that we can adjust up or down depending on the size of the client. Next in our lineup is the Super Slow Systems Leg Press. This is on just a linear rail with sealed bearings, so it is also very low friction. It's got a fairly flat strength curve, which works really, really well. We also do calf exercise off the bottom of the foot plate here, as well as on the MedEx Leg Press. It's very, very versatile. Coming next is the original iteration of the Super Slow Systems Pulldown with no cam whatsoever. And this is useful. We use it a lot for tricep presses. But it's also useful for clients that have difficulty cooperating with a fall-off cam and teaching them the appropriate form before we move them onto a machine that has a fall-off cam. The unique thing about the Super Slow Systems pull-downs are you're not pulling from directly above like you are with most pieces of equipment. What you'll see is the boom for the cable is actually about 20 or 30 degrees in front of the vertical axis there. So that loading from the front actually opens up the shoulder joint so we don't have impingement issues, but it also loads the entire torso musculature much more aggressively. It's a very unique movement, and it's really, really effective. So our next piece of equipment in the lineup is the MedEx Abdominal machine. So again, it has the classic MedEx weight stack. It has a movement arm that goes underneath your arms and across the front of your chest. And it has these pads here that when you get in it, you push this handle and it abducts your legs apart. And the idea about abducting your legs apart is a lot of people, when they're doing an abdominal exercise, actually end up using deep muscles that attach your thigh to your lumbar spine to move the torso rather than the abdominals. But when this thing is spread apart with the legs, that is actually overstretching the iliacus and the psoas muscle, those deep muscles, so that they really cannot provide much contribution. So the only way that you're going to move that movement arm is with your abdominals. Now, in the future, if we happen to divide the equipment from one side to the other, abdominals can easily be done on this Nautilus pullover with some adjustments to focus just on the abdominal musculature. So if we ever divide the facility by partition, we're still able to hit abs on the other side. This is the other component of the medical spinal group. This is the MedEx medical cervical extension. This one actually restrains you to an extreme degree with 4-point shoulder harnesses, these chest pads that get cranked in over here so that you're really immobilized and only using your deep cervical extensors. And the difference between this one and the super slow systems is the super slow systems allows you to extend your entire spine when you're doing the movement, whereas this one does not. But it seems to really produce more isolation for the very deep cervical extensors. You feel it a lot more deeply, a lot more closely to the spine. But again, this is usually a machine that we use as a breakout for clients that are coming specifically to do spinal exercise in addition to their usual weekly workout. Next up is the Super Slow Systems Ventral Torso. This is a chest machine, but it also works the entire frontal torso area. And you can see that the way the movement arm works, you're originally starting out pressing straight outwards, but then it kind of comes downwards. So it's a combination chest press dip kind of movement, but it really, really loads the chest muscles well. As you'll see here, it also has a seat belt. That seat belt, we tell clients to push their pelvis into it like they're trying to break the belt. And that produces a very hard couple between the upper back and the hands on the movement arm that really puts the load onto the targeted musculature very, very effectively. Next up is another MedEx Compound Row with a Ken Hutchins retrofit on it. So this is a little duplicate piece of equipment. We predominantly use the one on the other side, although this one is very user-friendly because it has the aluminum top stack. And for anyone that's worked in a facility with MedEx, you know that if you're going to use these interval plates, you got to select that first and then gap the weight stack. But this one you can gap the weight stack simultaneously because the hole timing for the pin is the same for both stacks. So that's kind of nifty, and that's something that Ken Hutchins specified for this particular piece of equipment. And last but not least on the machines is the Super Slow Systems overhead press. This is the original version. It's not the RenX version. On the RenX version, the handles are tipped up a little bit in that direction, which is a little more ideal. Again, there's a seat belt that you're pushing your pelvis into, which couples your back into the back pad. And then you're pushing on these handles and they're kind of arcing up in this direction. And what you can see with that is that you are really effectively loading the entire shoulder girdle, but it's a motion like you're dumping out a big wheelbarrow, and that keeps the joint space for the rotator cuff wide open. So there's no shoulder issues, even for people that have a little bit of problem or some rotator cuff issues in their shoulder. We find that they can use that pretty effectively. Other components about the facility are, in front of each machine, we've taken a cheapo clock from Walmart, pulled off the hour and minute hand, and we just have a second hand that is something that the client can look at so that they can refer to it when we are asking them to go with a particular repetition cadence. Also, each of these clocks are mounted so that person of average height, if they're looking at the clock, they're in neutral head position so that their spinal positioning is correct. Some other implements that we use in the studio are kind of laying about. We have a Formulator. which is used for forearm exercises. And you can see kind of how this works. And it produces a real good coupling for the hand and good for wrist extension and wrist flexion. This is my $7 infometric bar. We can use that to pit one side of the body against the other, most commonly used for lateral raise or rear delt movements, but can also be used for bicep and tricep. There's actually a video on the YouTube channel in the early videos about my $7 infometric bar. Another thing that we make good use of in the facility is yoga blocks and yoga straps. So we do not have a hip adduction or a hip abduction machine. But when we want to do that exercise, we simply do it as a time static contraction movement. We do it with the foam pad between the knees, squeezing for 30 seconds at 50% effort, and then we ramp to 75% effort and do that for 30 seconds, and the final 30 seconds are basically as hard as you dare. For abduction, we just take the strap, which is looped, and loop it over the outside of the distal femur, just above the knee, and perform abduction. And very commonly, we will do that as a pre-exhaust in the leg press, which is why you see those pieces sitting right to the next to the leg press, because we can have a client we can just put the pad and the strap on them simultaneously, have them do adduction, abduction, and then go straight into leg press. And they don't have to do a thing. We can remove the pad for them right as they start into the leg press. So there's just absolutely no rest at all between those movements. So that's pretty much everything that we use equipment-wise at the facility. The other thing you'll notice is we have a big old air conditioner for cooling this 1,200 square foot space. And that is because whether it is December the 16th or August the 16th, this is the temperature that you will encounter in our facility. It is 61 degrees in here year-round. So clients that come here, you don't have to worry about changing clothes, getting sweaty, having to take a shower, or anything of that nature. The environment is made to be ideal for producing maximal exertion, to get the best stimulus, maximal results in the minimal time. So, just the latest update to the Ultimate Exercise Studio. I hope that everyone enjoyed this. If you're looking at this and contemplating becoming a client here, please know that you can come for an introductory workout. You just call, we'll schedule it with you. We'll take you through a series of exercises so that you can experience firsthand what this is about. And it is our policy that once that's done, you can leave the facility to contemplate it. There's never any sales pressure. We won't ask you to sign up or pay for anything at the end of the introductory appointment unless you initiate it. So if you ever want to see what it's about, just give us a call, 864-886-0200, and that concludes our Ultimate Exercise Studio Tour. Thanks for watching.